Aaron.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say it the first time I said Aaron?
Because it's pronounced Aaron?
You done messed up, Aaron!
Aaron is present. Thanks for joining me, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Guys, in 1999, Scientology's public enemy number one was a man named Bob Minton, who had created something called the Lisa McPherson Trust that was headquartered in Clearwater and was the source of all of Scientology's problems. And yet, by 2001, Scientology had managed to flip Bob Minton and get him to come over to their side, legally speaking, shutting down his operation, turning over the keys to his properties, and making some declarations that Scientology was able to use in court, throwing under the bus the people who had worked for him and had worked alongside of him in his cause. And in a Q&A that we did on this channel last night, someone asked Mike Rinder, how did Scientology manage to flip Bob Minton? And the story is truly incredible. The story is told in some detail in Mike Rinder's book, A Billion Years, which I highly recommend. But here is the answer that Mike gave on the Q&A last night. Check this out. How did Miscavige flip Bob Minton? I read your book, but it wasn't explained in detail. I thought it was explained in some detail.
It was explained in a lot more detail than a lot of things are explained in the book. I sort of used Bob Minton as the example of one of the sort of successful fair game campaigns. I mean, he was under intense investigation by private investigators who were following him around and visiting his family members, et cetera, et cetera. But the big thing was that he had accumulated his money in Swiss bank accounts, and a lot of it had come from trading in Nigerian bonds. And Dave LeBeau, the private investigator, was sent to get Bob Minton's money frozen. That was his target. And he went and found this soccer player, John Fashanu, who played for Arsenal in the English Premier League and was a Nigerian, and somehow managed to find a line to this guy and persuade him that there were people who were ripping off his country, and because he was such a famous person in England, he was able to get an audience with someone at the Nigerian High Commission and persuade them that something needed to be done about this. And they contacted a prosecutor in Switzerland through the Nigerian embassy in Switzerland and got Bob Minton's accounts frozen. Now,
unbelievable.
That had a big impact on his ability to do anything. And by that time, he had a bunch of people who were like sort of treating him like the free lunch. And as his money no longer was available, him paying for their, whatever it was that he was paying for at the time, there was a bunch of people down there at the Lisa McPherson Trust, they started getting pissed off at him. And it created like an environment where he was almost as upset with the people who were on his side of that equation by that point as he was with Scientology. But they didn't offer any solution to the problem. Only Scientology did, and only I could be the one that could say to him, listen, if we sort this out, I'm sure we can sort out the problems that you're having in Switzerland. So
amazing.
That's how it happened.
It's such a perfect example of how Scientology, even though there's not a whole lot of geniuses running their show over there, can figure out how to find a way, finagle a way, that, exploit something here, exploit something there to move some pretty big mountains.
Right. And I doubt that John Fashanu even understood that he was doing anything on behalf of Scientology. I mean, that's how these operations are supposed to be done. They are supposed to be done so that there is no link back to Scientology, because that would be sort of self-defeating. And this is what I testified to in the Paul Haggis case, that look, there may be no visible link between Scientology and the accuser in this case, but I wouldn't expect there would be one. You don't do it that way. You find a cutout and you go and you find what it is that is attractive or influences or encourages someone to take action that is helpful to you and your cause without them even knowing that that's the case. So,
Right.
you know, that's a classic example. And there was a whole bunch of them. I mean, this is or that was total fair game. That is fair game in its essence. And it is the same sort of thing as was done to Gabe Cazares. It's the same sort of thing that was done to Paulette Cooper. You know, Paulette Cooper was being prosecuted by federal prosecutors for her bomb threat against Scientology and her threats against Henry Kissinger. And she would have been convicted and gone to prison had it not been for the FBI raid and the documents coming out that showed this was all a setup.
Right.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe